All right. So, welcome back to the show. I have a good guest today, Damon. Can you introduce yourself before we begin?
Absolutely. My name is Daymond Sewall. I'm the author of a couple books. I own a gym. I am known as Master Shredder, and I get people shredded year round, all the time. So that's basically who I am and what I do.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, fat loss is one of the major reasons people kind of seek out personal training. Obviously, there's like a health benefit to kind of decreasing your body fat, but most people approach it for the most reason just to kind of not look overweight and just to look a little bit more in shape. Can you go over like random stumbling blocks or where people would typically go wrong in their fat loss journey?
Man, where did they go
You're
wrong?
like, I don't have 10 hours
Oh
today, dude.
God. They go wrong in absolutely everything. You can't even like. We don't have enough time today to even discuss where they go wrong. But the main thing is that number one is that what most people don't realize is that when it comes to fat loss, and just so you guys that are watching know, because a lot of people don't know this, when it comes to you having abs, having a six pack, being defined, looking ripped, all that is having low body fat levels. That's all that is. So the process of looking ridiculous means you got to burn fat, okay, for everybody, okay. And where everybody blows this and everybody goes wrong is that man, there's a lot that they do, but a lot of what people don't understand is that the journey of from being fat or just fluffy to being ripped and defined is a psychological journey. And that's why in both of my books, that's the very first thing that I talk about is the mindset of getting in shape, because you have to have it here before you'll ever get it here. So I would say out of everything, that's number one, is you got to focus on the mindset. And that means doing just like how you would, set up your goals in business. You got to set up your goals for your fitness as well too. You got to put that in writing. You have to be saying a certain thing. You got to be thinking a certain way. You've got to be focusing on the mindset and training your mind in order to get success.
Gotcha. Well, what do you feel kind of like, I guess, since you touched on the mental aspect of it, what do you feel is one of the things that kind of leads to a person to find it acceptable to gain all that weight to begin with? And kind of how would they kind
Dude,
of
I
work on?
ask myself that question all the time, man. I'm like, how the hell do people let themselves get this far? Like, how do the hell do they let themselves lose themselves like this? Like, how do you not feel your muffin top squeezing out of your pants and hanging over your belt? And how does that not drive you absolutely crazy? Like, I don't get it. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I personally, like, there's no way I would ever let myself get that way. And I've been fat before, right? I let myself get like that one time, and and that's why I'll never be there again, because I felt the pain of what it's like to be fat, and it's not pleasant. It sucks. It sucks way worse than having to track your food, and way worse than having to be sore, and way worse than having to work out every day. Trust me. So, how they do that, man, I have no idea. But I do know the one thing. One of the big problems that a lot of them have is that uh, they program their minds to fail. And what I mean by that is that your belief system creates your reality, right? And anything that you say that follows the words I am becomes a command for your subconscious mind and leads to the decisions, the actions, the behaviors that lead to that result. So, for example, like, let me give you a common one, which everybody does, which is very, very common, which is one of the first things that I work with people with is the belief I'm fat, right? So they have this belief, oh, I'm so fat right now. I'm so fat. I'm fat. I'm fat. I'm fat. I'm fat. Well, guess what that's going to create? Programming. You're identifying yourself as a fat person. You're programming your mind to actually create that result. So one of the big things that you have to do is to program your mind for what you want, not what you don't want. So you can program it many, many, many ways, but just flipping it by saying the exact opposite. I'm committed to being fit, right? I am doing the work every day that it takes to create the body of my dreams, right? You have to change that belief system, and that's one of the biggest ones that I see all the time is people have that belief I'm fat, right? The other one that they have is I'm lazy, right? I am, that's a command. If you have the belief that you're lazy, you're gonna be lazy, okay? If you have the belief that um, I'm undisciplined, right? You're going to be undisciplined. And the only way that you're going to be able to get success in any area of your life is through a very obsessive level of self-discipline, whether that means in your marriage, in your business, in your financial situation, and especially in your fitness. So your mindset is everything, because everything follows that. So.
Well, do you try to, like with incoming clients, do you try to kind of encourage them to leave the environment that kind of puts up a lot of obstacles to, I guess, live a health conscious
I
lifestyle?
always tell them, and oftentimes one of the biggest challenges people have is their spouse, right?
Hmm.
So I always tell them all the time, like, look, you're going to become like the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? So if your BFF is obese, you're going to stay obese as long as you keep spending time with them. So if you want to be fit, you need to associate yourself with people who are on that path or already there, because your social circle is going to determine where you are, so, and where you end up, because you're going to adopt the mindset and the behaviors and the actions of these people. Like, for example, let's say you have an obese friend. You're going to go to dinner with your obese friend every week, right? Or oftentimes a few times a month, right? You're going to go hang out with them. You go out to dinner with your fat friend, right? What's your fat friend going to do? They're going to order the worst stuff, right? They're going to order the worst drinks, the worst food, and then they're going to offer it to you, right? And then if you're trying to be disciplined and trying to be the one that orders like the steak and broccoli and drinks water or drinks wine instead of margaritas and Mai Tais and things like that, right? That fat friend is going to give you shit, right? Because what's happening is when you discipline yourself, unfit people, it's basically almost like you taking a mirror to their face and showing them, hey, look, fatty, look at you, look at what you're eating, right? Look at what I'm eating. And they don't like that. They don't like being the one alone, because they know they shouldn't be eating that. They know they shouldn't be drinking that, right? But they are, and they don't want to be alone. And if they have somebody to do it with them, then it basically validates their decision. But whenever you are being disciplined in front of them, it basically is a mirror showing them how undisciplined they are, and they don't like that, right? So if you're hanging out with fat people all the time, you're going to be fat. If you're hanging out with obese people, you're going to be obese, right? And the exact opposite is the same if you're hanging around with fit people, right? It's just like the old, just like, you'll find that like the world's wealthiest people, millionaires and billionaires, they don't associate with 30,000aires. Okay.
30,000.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? Because they understand the importance and the value of your circle. They understand how influential that is on your success in life. So they're not going to surround themselves with a 30,000aire that's not going to add any value to their lives whatsoever, right? Because they know that 30,000aire has self-limiting beliefs about his ability to make money and his financial situation, right? They don't want to be around that. They want to be around people who think big, who think on a whole nother level, who don't think in terms of problems and limitations, that think on a level where they're going to dominate situations and solve people's problems and prosper greatly out of it. Those are the types of people they associate with. It's the same thing with fit people. Like my best friends, they're all ripped. Okay, I don't have any of my closest friends. None of them are out of shape. Okay, we got some people in our little social circle that's, they're not in the greatest shape, but those are also the ones that I limit my time with. But my closest friends, they're all ripped, all of them. So, and there's a reason behind that, and that's because we all understand the power of your circle. So.
Well, in terms of like the amount of time you spend with people, like a lot of people spend most of their time at work, even more time at work than actually with their loved ones.
Absolutely.
So I mean, in a typical, any kind of typical company you go into these days, I mean, you'll see probably like 8 or 9 out of 10 people are like overweight, obese, like full of mental and physical pain. Like, how do you feel that impacts the person's like goal overall, and what do you feel like people can do to kind
that
of
affects
stop that influence?
that affects everything. And the big thing is, and what most people don't realize, is your nutrition affects everything. Besides the fact that your nutrition is the only way you will ever get ripped and ever get lean, it also affects your motivation how you feel, your energy levels, your hormone levels, your health, everything comes from your food, right? So most people who work in like your typical corporate office, guess what's in the break room, right?
Organic
What,
vegetables.
no, donuts and bagels and birthday cake and all this stuff. And guess what they eat when they go in there to go get their sugary coffee, right? They're eating trash all day long, and then they expect it, and then they wonder why they feel like trash, and they don't want to go to the gym, and they don't want to do anything, and they don't have any motivation, and all they want to do is go home and go to sleep, right? It's because their nutrition is terrible. So that's number one. But it's not so much them being inactive so much during the day with them having their sedentary job, because if they were putting in their workouts every day, they'd still be able to get ripped. They just got to put the time in, and they got to put in that effort. You know, everybody's pretty much got a desk job, and they're sitting on their ass for the great majority of the day. So, but they have to put in that work every day.
Well, what do you feel like if a person came to you and they're like, oh, I've been trying to diet and lose fat for like 2 years, but it just like doesn't happen, you know?
Well, that's
like
everybody. That's everybody.
What's
I've
your
been trying to
what's your
lose
first
weight for
go-to strategy?
years. I've been trying to lose weight for years. And here's what they always say. I'm eating 1,200 calories a day. I'm eating 1,500 calories a day, and I just can't lose any weight. You heard those people? That's pretty much every American. Here's the reality.
Like 1,500 calories,
and
maybe the first meal.
Yeah. So then I ask them, okay, so what makes you think you're eating 1,200 calories a day? Well, you know, I only eat like 3 times a day. But okay, are you measuring and weighing your portions? No. Are you eating out? Yes. Are you, I don't even know what else I would even ask them. But then right there, if you aren't measuring and weighing your portions, how the hell do you how do you know you're even eating 1,200 calories a day? And if you ain't losing any weight, that's proof that you're not. That means you're eating more like 3,200 or 4,200 a day. Okay. And if you ain't weighing and tracking your portions, it's a guarantee, especially if your scale's not budget. Okay. So, yeah, I hear that all the time, man. That's got to be one of the most common ones. And they never, ever measure and weigh their portions. They usually are always eating out at least one time a day. Right? So you have no idea how many calories is in that food. I don't care what the website says. You're up to you're in the hands of the cook of the day, right? Do you think they're honestly like measuring out 6 ounces or a half a cup? Hell no, they're not. So you're putting your results in the hands of somebody who doesn't even care about you, who doesn't even know you, right? Yeah. So yeah, I hear those excuses all the time. So I put them in check immediately.
Well, how about the one where basically they say like, oh, I have like a collapsed thyroid or a collapsed hormonal system and I can't lose weight. Like that's another common one I hear online. What's your take on that?
So here's the deal with there's no such thing as a collapsed thyroid. But the people who have legit thyroid issues, whether it means that they have like autoimmune disease like hypothyroid, like hypothyroid because they have like Graves' disease or something like that. That is a damaged gut issue, okay, which also comes from your crappy food, okay. So for people who have like just a low thyroid output, they're just nutrient deficient in a bunch of certain nutrients. So vitamin D, magnesium, zinc, iodine, even some B vitamins. There's a lot that they're deficient in, and it's just because they're eating trash all day long and they're not nourishing their body, so their systems aren't firing like they're supposed to, right? So you end up with a low thyroid output. So, but even then, just because you have low thyroid doesn't mean that your body completely stopped burning calories, okay? People, listen up. Your body is burning calories 24/7, okay? Something has to supply the energy for your breathing, your heart rate, your brain functions, your cellular, like everything that's going on in your cellular systems. Something has to be providing that energy. So you're burning calories all the time. How much, though, depends on your height, your weight, your sex, your activity levels, and so forth, right? So it's not like if you have a thyroid issue that your body just completely stops burning calories. No, it just reduces it a little bit. You're still burning calories. So even with a low thyroid, you can still lose fat. You can still get the body that you want. You're just going to have to work harder on your nutrition and work harder in the gym until you get that fixed. So yeah, that's just a BS excuse.
Well, how about like regarding the calories thing? What if a person says like another common one is like I'm in starvation mode, and like my my body just
I have
stops
a
losing weight, dude.
I don't even bother with that one. I just there's this article that I have that I have in my pocket that just I just send people. And I'm like, just read this. I'm not even gonna waste my time in this conversation. So and I send them that article, and then afterwards I follow up and I'm like, all right, what'd you learn? And they were like, that I'm overeating. So it's not starvation mode, people. Okay, that is a bullshit theory. Okay, like I just told you, your body's burning calories 24/7. It doesn't just halt and stop just because you haven't eaten. Okay, that's BS. So your body is constantly burning calories. So there is no such thing as starvation mode. The only thing that even can come close to that is, let's say that you're dieting really hard for like a really long time, like 6 months or more straight. Okay, straight calorie deficit for a long time. Okay, and there's been studies that have been done on this. The only thing that's going to happen is that when you've been in a deficit for a really long period of time, is your body's going to start to waste muscle. Okay, when you start to waste muscle, it's also going to reduce the amount of calories that your body burns at rest. Okay, so if you've been, starving yourself for 6 months, yeah, you're going to see some serious reduction in your metabolic rate, mainly due to the fact that your body has reduced muscle, but it's also going to lower its metabolism to try and save more energy too, because it feels like it's starving, right? But it doesn't mean it's going to go to a zero. It's just going to reduce it a little bit, right? Not stop it completely. Okay, if it stops completely, you die. Okay,
I always
you
tell
die.
people, yeah, I always tell people the only time you burn like 0 calories is when you're
It's when
dead.
you're dead.
You know?
Yeah, it's the only time you're not going to burn calories is when you're dead.
Yeah.
So you burn all the time. The reason why people don't feel like they do, and the reason why they feel like they they look at food and gain weight, is because they just constantly overeat, right? And then people are like, I don't eat all day, I only eat one time a day, right? Yeah, and that one time a day you had 6,000 calories because you went to McDonald's and had a whole pizza along with it. Okay, that's why you don't lose any weight, because you're still overeating calories. So even if it's only one meal a day. So yeah.
Yeah, and I also tell people the importance of, a lot of people negate like counting the sauces they put on the food, the
Oh
industrial
yeah,
oils that all like adds like a few
all
hundred
adds up.
calories a day, like no problem. And
Yeah,
oftentimes people's metabolism are like, it's like so low already, they can't afford that kind of buffer, So it's
yeah,
like,
it's not that their metabolism is low, it's that their activity is non-existent and their intake is fucking insane, right? They're eating a ton, they're eating out like literally every single meal. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? They're eating out processed stuff and they're not active. So you have your output is here and your intake is here, which is why your fat gain is making up that difference. So yeah, so it's not so much that their metabolism is slower, it's just their asses ain't doing anything. They sit in office all day, they're eating trash, they're feeling lazy, they just want to go home and go to sleep.
yeah.
So they're not active. So
would you say like what, objectively speaking, like one of the best things a person can do to lose weight is just to start establishing like a consistent, like slight caloric deficit in their diet? Because I know there's
yeah,
a lot of confusion online about that. Some people are like, oh, it's not all about the calories.
it
Some
is all
people
about
are.
calories.
Yeah.
It's always about calories. Always. Every single diet in the world, and there's like 20,000, okay? Every single diet does one thing and one thing only, in some way, some fashion, somehow. It is designed to create a caloric deficit. And one of the biggest problems that people have is they try and do keto, they try and do paleo, they try and do low carb, they try and do like all these different diets, right? But they don't pay any attention to the calorie intake. Do you know how many people I come across on a regular basis that are like, oh my God, I'm keto and I just can't lose any weight? And then you look at their diet and they're eating 5,000 calories of just basically like cheese and nuts and butter and meats and things like that. Like, yeah, the only thing that makes the body lose body fat and burn body fat is by creating a caloric deficit. And for those of you that don't know what that means, that means that you have to limit your calorie intake, okay? And you have to burn more than you're consuming. So what that means is, I'll take myself for an example, okay? My BMR, my basal metabolic rate, is anywhere between about like 1,800 calories a day, okay? And for those of you guys that don't know what BMR is, it's basically like how many calories it requires each day just for your body to survive. So remember what I was talking about earlier, where I was talking about your body's always burning calories? So if I laid on the couch and just watched Netflix all day long, I'm going to burn at least 1,800 calories just from my BMR alone, okay? Now, when you add in working out, and I work out every single day, you add in working out on top of that, now you're going to end up with a total caloric output. So for an example, let's just take like an average day that I do when I work out. On an average workout day, my total for the day will be around like 2,800, 3,200 calories, right? And if I'm really trying to get shredded, getting ready for a shoot, getting ready for a show, something like that, then I will create a calorie deficit, right? And that calorie deficit for me personally is around 2,100 to 2,300 calories a day, right? So I'm burning this, but I'm limiting this. So I'm only eating 21, but I'm burning, say, 3, right? 3,000, right? Now, because I'm burning and I've only eaten this much, there's a deficit, a calorie deficit. So there's some missing calories that my body needs. So what it will do is it will dip into my body fat to get that other 900 calories. You do that day after day after day, you lose fat every single day. The reason why most people don't lose weight is because they don't track their food. They don't weigh their portions, and they just kind of eyeball, and they think they're doing 1,200 when really they're doing 4,200, right? And when they start to actually weigh their portions and they start to actually track their food and see how much they actually really have been eating, they're like, oh my God, I have been eating so much, right? Because they're just throwing it in their bowl. They're not even paying attention to it, and they're consuming a ton of calories, and that's why they never lose weight. And another couple things that people do that lead to them never getting results too is, and this is the most common top 2 mistakes that people make. Number 1 is they don't weigh their portions, they don't track their intake. Okay, that's number 1. But on top of that, along with this one is they're tracking the wrong brands. So for example, this is especially important when it comes to protein sources. Okay, when you're eating chicken, beef, turkey, pork, whatever it is that you're eating, right, as your protein source, when you are logging, so we use an app on our phones called MyFitnessPal to track our food on. And so I tell everybody to track their food on. And it'll do all the math for you. You just got to plug in the foods. But not all the brands are the same. So you could be tracking on the app. Let's say you're eating chicken thighs, right? You're eating like 8 ounces of chicken thighs, right? And you're tracking 8 ounces of chicken thighs from, say, Sexy Farms, right? And it's 280 calories, right? But you're actually eating the one from Fatty Farms, right? And Fatty Farms is 600 calories, right? Instead of the 280. Now you do that for 3, 4, 5 meals a day, right? Now all of a sudden you're eating 1,000 extra calories, right? So you thought you were eating 2,100 when you're eating 3,100, right? And then not losing an ounce because you tracked the wrong brand. So you have to verify. And most food companies today, they have a little barcode scanner, so you can just scan it right in the app, and then you just select the servings. So it's super easy. But when you're going to some of these stores, they don't have the nutritional value, so you may have to hunt for it online and then actually create your own version in the app. The second thing that people do wrong, which most people are not aware of, is they weigh their protein sources cooked. Okay, the calorie amount accounts for the raw weight, okay, not cooked. Now we can take that same 8 ounces of chicken thighs we were just talking about, and if you were to weigh that out cooked, you could really be eating 12 to 16 ounces of chicken. Okay, it's another way people get extra calories that they don't even know. So if they're weighing cooked chicken 8 ounces, typically thighs will lose about 50% of their weight. So that means if you ate 8 ounces cooked, you just ate a pound of actual chicken calories wise, right? And then you do that multiple times a day. Before you know it, you've had thousands of extra calories, and you're like, why can't I lose any weight? My metabolism's so slow. It must be my genes, blah, 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 right? You start blaming everything else, right? Because you think you're doing it right, because you're not doing it right. So that's another common one that I see too. So that's always something that I tell my people to watch out for right in the beginning so they don't make those mistakes. So yeah.
Yeah, and there's also like an interesting book regarding that called like the Dorito effect, and it talks about how American agriculture has gone to monocropping operations, and because of that, the nutritional profile of the food groups is much lower. So
Yeah,
a person is constantly like, the body is constantly hungry for those nutrients, so it'll kind of make you want to eat more and more because, like today you need like 3 or 4 apples to be equivalent for the same amount of nutrients you'd find in an apple back in like 1930, for instance. You know, so that's like an interesting perspective on like why people tend to overeat as well. Because sometimes like when you look up,
that could be part of it too. So that could be part of it too. But the reality is that everybody just eats like shit.
Yeah,
that's just the reality.
Picture, yeah.
Everybody eats terrible, and those who even think they eat healthy are not even close. So, you know, they're eating lots of gluten-free products and whole wheat products, and they're eating all this other processed crap. They're taking all these sugary supplements or these things with sucralose in them. They're drinking protein shakes, which are full of crap, and they're eating protein bars, which are basically a candy bar, right? They're eating yogurt, which is just pure sugar. You might as well just go eat a bag of sugar. It's the same thing, right? So they're eating all these things they think are healthy. They're not even close, like not even close. So, but yeah, people do have cravings as well too, because they have certain nutritional deficiencies. But the main reason why they have cravings is just because they have a full-on food addiction, because the foods that they're eating are highly addictive, and that's why they crave them. So when you have a bite of one, it's going to make you crave more. You're going to binge on it. You're going to stay fat. So, but yeah.
Do you have like a general, outside of like if a person is hitting their calories appropriately and weighing out the food and measuring everything out correctly, do you have like a general like macronutrient distribution to recommend for like the average person?
I typically have like a step-by-step on how I actually recommend it. I mean, the fastest way is to track your macros and create your deficit going low carb, high fat, right? That's the fastest way, okay? That's the fastest way. But when I typically get people, when I start off with them, I give them a little bit of carbs. So I usually will make about 15% of their nutrition when they start is carbs, and then the rest is protein and fats. So, but yeah, I have a specific little formula that I do. But if they want fast results, straight up low carb, high fat. And when I say high fat, I don't mean like keto level, although keto's fine. So keto is very, very effective if you actually track your macros and actually weigh your portions and actually create a deficit. But I'm not keto so much. I'm more of like, I like to eat a lot more protein, so that way you can keep up with your training demands. So typically I like to recommend 35–40% of your protein or your calories coming from a protein source, and then the other 50% or so coming from fats. And the old school theory that like fats are what cause high cholesterol and saturated fat leads to heart disease and blah, 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 blah. Okay, first off, before we even kind of go there, know this. That whole study back 50, 60 years ago was paid for by the sugar industry to blame it on cholesterol, to blame it on saturated fat, when all along it was from sugar, okay? So your body needs fats for every single cell, for certain vitamin and mineral absorption. For every single thing your body does, it needs fats. And by you not giving it to them, like for example, like physique competitors are the worst at this. They still teach this old school, like, you know, low fat diet kind of thing. And these guys always have health issues. They always have, they always end up binging after a certain amount of time, and then rebounding and blowing up. And it's because they were trying to take all their fats away from their diet, and it led to them feeling like crap, damaging their metabolism, damaging their thyroid, like just ruining them. And then they ended up at some point binging, right? And then just completely lose control of themselves. So, fats are very, very, very important, especially for your hormones, right? So for your body to be able to, as a guy, to produce testosterone and growth hormone and things like that, you have to have good fats in your diet and protein. These are priority over everything. Carbs are inessential. You can literally live without them. Okay? You do not need them. But the other two, you cannot. You have to have them in your diet. So, yeah. So that was pretty much what I was.
Do you put a lot of stress on people sourcing their nutrients from like organic sources, or do you think it makes a difference between organic and factory farm stuff?
It does, absolutely. I definitely push people to spend the money and get organic, grass-fed, wild-caught, pasture-raised kind of things, because if you're getting like the traditional factory farm stuff, it's disgusting. Okay, whether that's beef, chicken, fish, whatever, they're pumped full of hormones. They're pumped full of antibiotics. Like, they're fed things that they're not designed to eat. Like, for example, if you're getting like a farmed fish is basically in a small little area, closed off, where they're feeding it like soy and corn and things like that. They're not even eating like, other sea creatures, which are, helping them become packed full of omega-3s, right? They're feeding them like corn and soy and different things like that. And then on top of that, they're swimming in these waters where they're basically swimming in their own shit, right? And then they put antibiotics in the water, right? It's just terrible. So when you eat these animals, you're getting that. So you want to make sure that when you are eating these animal sources, that you're getting it from a healthy source, right? So always read the labels, always read the packaging. Some brands, like for example, where we live, Sprouts, they sell their Sprouts brand, even though it's not like organic or anything. They sell some, like for example, their beef that doesn't have any added hormones, doesn't have any antibiotics in it, right? And those are things that you always want to make sure that your food sources are coming from, is no hormones and no antibiotics. And in the state of California, all the poultry, it's against the law for them to use antibiotics or hormones in them. So you won't see that in California, but in a lot of the other states, they don't have that law, right? So they do. So it just depends on. But yeah, eat healthy sources. Yes, eat healthy sources.
There is a website for those that are interested called eatwild.com. Mm. And it has like a map of like America, and you can just select your state, and it shows you arrows to like 100% pasture raised organic operations.
Oh, nice.
So that's like nice. Anywhere, and then you just click on that, and pretty much all of them do at-home delivery these days. And nice. And then there's another website called like vitalchoice.com, and they have like really good high quality sources of fish. For anyone that's interested in that as well. So if they're interested in going outside of the supermarket level.
Yeah, I've actually found that in most supermarkets, if you go to the frozen food section, you can usually always find a wild caught fish that is actually very like reasonably priced. Because if you go to like the counter, right, you're gonna pay a fortune, right? Yeah. But if you go to the frozen food section, you'll oftentimes find some wild caught stuff that's actually fairly cheap. So you're actually getting a healthy source, and it's frozen, so it's not going to go bad anytime soon.
Yeah, and actually, ironically, it's like fresher too, because you don't know how long it's been sitting out on that counter. Where the frozen fish, they usually just freeze right on the boat, or maybe like a processing facility right next to where the fishing is going on. Mm-hmm. So we covered like the nutrition part and the lifestyle part a little bit. Like, where do you feel people go wrong in their workouts? Because I feel there's a lot of
the number one thing is here too. The number one thing is that they think cardio is what makes them lose fat. Okay, cardio is not how you lose fat. You can do cardio all day long, and that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to lose anything, especially with the way that most of you guys eat. It's awful. Okay, so cardio ain't going to help you. So for number one, cardio isn't how you lose fat. The only way you lose fat is through what we talked about earlier, creating the calorie deficit. Okay, then burning. And then whenever it comes to training, you want to spend the majority of your time lifting, but lifting at a very intense pace, so you increase your calorie output. So for example, instead of going to the gym and going and doing bench press and then sitting there on your phone for 5 minutes, right, doing absolutely nothing but scrolling through Facebook, right, and then doing another set, right, hardly burning any calories, instead what you should be doing is stay busy the entire time. So instead of doing that, you could do say 3 exercises in a row. Go do bench press with some chest flies, and then maybe throw in like a back movement, and then do some pull-ups, right? Rest 1 minute, repeat 5 times. Now, when you do stuff like that and do multiple different sets of that kind of thing in your workout, your calorie output is going to be way higher. And as long as you're tracking your calories and your macros and staying in a calorie deficit, that output is going to lead to fat loss. And you've literally done 0 traditional cardio. The second thing when it comes to cardio is never, ever, well, I wouldn't say never, ever, but the great majority of your time, never, ever, 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 ever do steady state cardio. And what that means is never go run on the treadmill for an hour, never go do stairs for an hour, never go run 9-10 miles, right? Don't go biking 100 miles, right? Because all of these types of endurance style cardio, what they do is they trigger muscle loss. On top of that, they're also going to, if you do them for too long, they're actually going to affect your thyroid, right? Which can affect how many calories that you're actually putting out. But on top of that, it's actually going to make you waste muscle. So what's going to happen is for you guys, right, you're going to get some scrawny little arms, right? And probably some scrawny little legs, right? From all this little cardio that you're doing, right? And for you ladies, that means you're going to get a flat ass. Okay. That means bye-bye booty. So, and so you don't want to be doing steady state forms. So once in a while is no big deal, but you do not want to be doing it on a regular basis. So when it comes to doing cardio-like type things, and I call this conditioning, just so people can separate it in their minds, is doing forms of interval training, right? So instead of saying going and running 10 miles, right, you go find a small hill, sprint up, walk down. Do that 20, 30 times. There's your workout for the day, okay? Or for that. So if you actually tie that in where you're doing your lifting workout like I just told you, and then throwing in some conditioning on top of it, you're going to lose fat really, really, really fast as long as you're in a calorie deficit, okay? So for example, when I am, I teach my clients this too, to wear a heart rate monitor, okay, Polar A360, and they have a specific calorie burn goal they have to burn every day, and they only wear it when they work out, right? So most of my girls, they have anywhere from 500 to 800 calories a day they got to burn every single day. And then my dudes have 800 to 1,000 plus, depending on how big they are. Some of my guys, I'm like 1,500, but they have to burn that much in a workout every single day. I don't care how many workouts it takes or how many hours it takes. Do it, okay? So for example, like when I'm getting ready for shows and shoots and things like that, my calorie burn goal is 1,000 a day, and I usually do it in 2 workouts, and I'll usually burn anywhere from 600 to 800 in my lifting workout, right? Because I'm a small guy, I don't burn that many calories, and then I'll throw in some sprints on top of that, right? So on a different time of the day, or I'll do it maybe first thing in the morning or later in the afternoon. So I'll do my lifting workout, and then later on I'll go back or right outside my house or down the street or somewhere. I'll do something to burn that other 200 to 350 calories that I need to burn to hit my 1,000 for the day. So, and really fat loss, it can really be boiled down to 2 things, okay? 2 things. Limit your calorie intake by tracking your stuff, burn calories every day, okay? If you do those 2 things, you're going to get ripped, okay? It is 100% proven fact. You do that, you're going to lose fat, you're going to get ripped. Okay, that's all you got to do. Now, there's a lot of other things that revolve into hitting that. You know, you got to train your mindset. You got to discipline yourself around food. You got to track your macros and weigh your portions. You got to train like a beast every day. You got to be doing a lot of stuff on your soft tissue to make sure you stay injury free, right? You got to be disciplined in social situations and things like that. But you do those 2 things, it's guaranteed. Okay, so. And that's kind of like the way that I just dumb it down for people, you know, and with my clients, like, look, you do this and you do this, you're going to get ripped. And that's why you see like my before and afters of people, they're just like stupid. Like they're just ridiculous. Like, no way. There's no way that was that guy before. And, you know, and because we've taken people that have like, you know, lost like 95 pounds and they got an 8-pack, right? It's just from doing the same thing. Limit your calories, burn every day. That's it.
Yeah, and I guess the last question, and this one kind of applies well to you, and like a lot of people, you do have, I think you have like 2 kids, right? Or 1 kid?
4.
Yeah, so you got Got 4 kids.
You
Plus
just
a
only
wife,
see
plus a
you only
business.
see the little one because I take him everywhere. So that's
Oh,
why you
okay,
see
gotcha.
him the majority of the time. But yeah, we got 4.
Yeah, so you have like 4 kids, which is super time consuming. You have like a wife, you have a business.
Mm-hmm.
So you're kind of like crunched on time. Can you go over like how you manage to, and also like
You,
what's your age?
I'm 40.
Yeah,
So
so you're 40 as well. So, but you still stay in really good shape. So can
mhm.
you go over kind of like some time management strategies
It's
of how you balance everything out?
yeah, absolutely. The number one thing that I like to tell people is to get up earlier and get it done. Schedule it. You have to schedule it, and you have to make it an absolute daily habit that you do every single day. Okay? You have to do that. And the reason why I say to get up and do it first thing is because if you try and do like what most of America does, okay, most of America is fat. Keep this in mind. Most of America is fat, and they want to wait until after work, right? It's a forethought, right? It's at the end of their day. Now, what happens to people by the time they get to the end of the day after work?
Super
What happens?
tired.
They're exhausted, right? They're just mentally and physically exhausted because there's been so much going on at work and they just want to free their mind, right? So for those people who go in the evening, what happens is their workouts suck, right? So a typical person that say like I gave like the goal of burning 1,000 calories every single workout and they train in the evening, right? They're going to come in and they're only going to burn 600, right? Because they're exhausted physically, mentally, and they're just going through the motions. They're not even pushing themselves, right? Because they're tired. So this is why I highly recommend that people get in the habit of getting up early and getting it done first thing before work, and even on the weekends before you even start your day, every single day, first thing, because you are guaranteed to make sure you get it in. It's done. You're also going to get an endorphin high. You're going to be able to process your thoughts and emotions much more clearly, right? And then on top of that, you're going to be more consistent, right? And fitness is all about being consistent. So kids just got home. Do you hear that?
Yeah, I hear. That's okay. That shows you're still able to do it with the family running around, you know?
Exactly.
So you don't have to push anyone out of the way and you can still make it all happen, you know?
Yeah.
So,
So
all right, cool.
yeah, that's the
Do you
thing,
have,
man. First thing in the morning, like if you, the majority of my clients that have the greatest transformations, they're my morning people, right? Because I train groups of people, and the ones that look the best and the ones that are the most consistent are typically my morning people because they are there every day. They get it done before work. There's never like, oh, I got this fire I got to put out at work. I got this BS going on. I got this project I got to finish. There's never that, right? They always get it done first. There's no interruptions from work. There's no interruptions from the kids. There's no interruptions from their spouse. They get it done. It's done. They go on with their day. Then they get to go home, right? And their entire day is complete. They've done what they're supposed to do, and they're one step closer to getting fit. So
yeah, and like another big negative about working out at night is I do see a lot of people like around 6 or 7 like drink energy drinks before their workouts.
oh man, yeah,
You
you
know,
ain't
so it's
sleeping
like,
if you do that.
yeah,
They're
and then that
taking
sets up another
pre-workouts.
vicious
Yeah,
cycle of like
yeah,
huge negative health
yeah.
consequences, you know?
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
taking
so
workouts in the evening,
with
drinking
like
energy drinks at night.
400 milligrams of
Yeah,
caffeine, like at 7 p.m. I'm
yeah.
like, you're done, dude. You're
Yeah,
not
you ain't
sleeping that
sleeping.
night.
So
Yeah,
even if they try and lay down, they may only get like a couple hours of actual sleep.
yeah,
Then you wake up tired, right? And then you have to
exactly.
go through the whole next day, go through the same process. So that you're basically just living off coffee and caffeine and energy drinks all day long just to try and stay alive.
Yeah,
It's just to stay
yeah,
awake.
exactly.
So yeah, that's
Yeah.
another reason why I recommend it. I'm all for taking pre-workouts, but not flavored ones, right? Because the flavored ones have sugars, sucralose, stevia, things like that, and these things trigger cravings for more sweet, sugary, carby things, right? So on top of that, sucralose, which is what is in pretty much all the supplements these days, is very damaging to your gut lining, right?
Mm.
So that can lead to inflammation and a whole host of other issues. So that's why I'm anti anything that's flavored. So I actually take fat burner capsules, right? Because they have the same stimulants as pre-workouts, but they don't have the flavors, right? So just a little tip for you guys for
Yeah.
pre-workout. So
Cool.
black coffee works fine, green tea works fine
That's my
too.
favorite one.
So,
Some black coffee in the morning on the way to the gym. So
yeah, so either one of those is fine. So, but yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you have like anything else you want to add before we call it a day?
No, I'm pretty sure we covered the gist of everything. So just like you guys remember, track your stuff, limit your intake, burn every day. Okay, you do that, you're gonna get ripped. Okay, then you're gonna be reaching out to me going, "Oh my God, I saw your podcast and I got a 6-pack now. I just want to thank you." I get that all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. And for those people that do want to contact Daymond, I'm going to include his gym website and his Facebook and all that stuff in the description section.
Yeah,
So you guys will have that there.
follow me on Facebook, and if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Cool. Thanks, Daymond.
Cool, got it. Thanks for having me on, man.
Thank you.
All right, later.